all about writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 60, part 11 on our series on writing craft. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I'm Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And today we are tackling the Romantasy phenomenon that has been going on for several years and continues to be one of the hottest selling genres of the publishing industry.
Yeah, and I've heard all about it and confess to still not really understand what it is. I know what fantasy is, I know what romance is, but what is romantasy?
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's romance in fantasy worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And these can be any kind of fantasy in any kind of fantasy world. And the best way to describe it is mainly for any sensual, sexual, insane fantasy, and I use insane in the most loving of terms that anyone has ever had. There is you will find a book.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the trope has, as an overarching trope, has become a bit of a, people make fun of it a little bit. There are some really great social media writers who write these in this genre, but they also make fun of the genre because, there's always magic. There's a lot of power struggles. There's, generally speaking, there's monsters, vampires, uh, sex is expected almost entirely. Like if there's not sex, it's not even really romantasy. There are some that don't, but they almost have to like let people know because otherwise it's expected. And
Yeah.
it's like not even, you know, some of it's not even that far-fetched. But I will say, a lot of romantasy does fall back on folk tales, folklore, things, if you are widely read, you will notice the threads through things. Like I've read all of Sarah J. Maas's stuff, The Court of Thorns and Roses, which is a huge, huge following, millions of people, and she's sold millions of books. Me as a reader, I'm enjoying it. The sex got gratuitous personally for me, but I understand it's what the genre expects. But for me, I'm like, oh, it's Alexander Lloyd meets the Mabinogian meets Slavic. There's a little bit of the Slavic folklore there, and I was like, just going, oh, it's this, and and if you haven't read some of those books from the 1970s or read the ancient lore, like you won't know. But if you're widely read, it's sort of fun because you can hunt and peck, but then you also recognize that some of these things were not like original.
Alright, so sex with Easter eggs. Okay, I think I'm getting it now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I did do a little bit of research, and I talked to another author friend of mine, and we were talking about romantasy, and he said, "Oh yeah, my 19-year-old daughter is really into this stuff right now." And so he read a couple of the books just to see what she was all about, and he said that the sequence of the character development between the two romantic interests basically goes like this: goes, I hate you, I respect you, but I don't like you. I kind of like you, but I don't want to admit it. I'm totally into you, and that's kind of how the flow goes every time. Like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, care to comment?
I I can't because that's quite accurate for almost all the books I've read in that genre. And granted, I haven't read all of them. I'm sure there's difference, but I would say that of all the romantasy books I've read, that's pretty spot on.
Okay, good,
It is.
good.
It is. And um I think that's just like the romance genre, which we can't knock. It's a multi-billion dollar a
Yeah,
year
yeah.
industry.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And and I do think too, the romantasy phenomenon, and part of it is because like there is rhythms to these books that are comfortable for the readers. They kind of know what to expect. There are kind of, I don't want to say rules, but there's rules.
Yeah.
And but I think the phenomenon we're finding now is these books have been voraciously read for decades. And um and they used to almost be like, no one, you didn't want anyone to see the cover that you were reading because people would be, oh, it's smut, or oh, it's, and things like that. And now, first of all, the covers have changed. So now it's not, you're not 100% sure what kind of book that is. It looks cute, chick lit, it's this, it's that. But the other thing is, people are no longer ashamed, I think, maybe, to be seen reading these books. They don't care. They are owning it. It's almost like a book sexual revolution. I mean, there are more bookstores popping up now all over the country that specifically only stock romantasy and romance books, because the market's there to support that, because people are no longer afraid to go and just buy a stack of them and read them on the subway. And
Yeah.
I think that is part of the phenomenon. And also, like, a lot of, I'm sort of middle-aged, but 40 to 60-year-old women who maybe never would have been caught dead reading them in public or something. They were reading Fourth Wing, which, oh, it's a dragon book. Well, it's a dragon book with a lot of sex, but it's still, like, it just took off, and people just stopped caring as much about being, about reading them, and even proclaiming that they love it, and saying, these are my, I love it when it's vampires marrying werewolves. Like, I mean, that
Yeah.
exists.
And you're absolutely right. And I know we're sort of having some fun talking about romantasy here, but I don't want anyone to think that we're mocking it. We're not. We're just sort
No,
of
no.
leaning into it and going, okay, this is hilarious. What's it all about? Why is it so like this? And it's the same with romance books. They used to get a really bad rap, even though they were like the top selling genre forever, but they were never considered serious literature. Well, who cares? I want to read what I want to read. And if this is what my jam is, then I'm into it. So we're not criticizing anybody here.
No,
If you
no,
love
no.
romantasy, oh, go deep. Like let's have some fun with this.
Well, and I think too, the part that makes romantasy fun too is they are fantasy books. So there's world building and magic systems and special powers, and because of that, it's a little less predictable than a traditional romance novel, because, well, somebody might show up who can, summon, the moon. I don't know, but you don't, it adds that mystique element. And it does make the books bigger than just the romantic
Yeah,
line through it. And there are so many variations of romantasy that also, there is something for everyone. If you are into the woman and a dinosaur, like, that exists. That exists. I'm not kidding. There are books about
awesome.
T-Rexes, and it's in a way, I kind of love it, because it almost feels like we've all been given permission to not only write whatever we've wanted, but we're finding readers for it too, as writers and creators. And like you said, it's kind of fun to just lean into and be like, anything goes. Let's have fun. And publishers aren't aren't being, like, prudish about it. They are also leaning into it, going, there's millions to be made in this market, in this genre, and they are looking for it still. It usually, I think, and that's why we're calling it a phenomenon, right? Because usually, and you can speak to this as a publisher, right? Like, usually it's like, there's a really good werewolf book that comes out and it sells really hot, right? And then for a short time, there people are looking to buy the next werewolf book. But by the time maybe the next one or two comes out, well, that bell curve for them first one's already peaked.
Yeah.
Those next two kind of get the coattails of that. But by the time you're like, hey, those are a big deal, I want to write a werewolf book. By the time you write it and try and sell it, they're gonna be like, no, that market's flooded. We're now into fairies.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, when I first was in publishing, it was zombies. Everything was zombies, and I was so sick of zombies. Like I never actually published a zombie book because I knew we were at the end of that wave, but also just I was so sick of it. Not that there's anything wrong with zombies, but yeah, it was so overdone. Absolutely. So it's neat to see that this seems to have some staying power, Romantasy.
Like for years. I mean, it's still hot. The fact that it's still hot and still selling years after it kind of looked like it had peaked after, Fourth Wing and A Court of, Thorn and Roses. Like those are kind of the two biggest ones lately. But like there's, you kind of almost expect it to then like that was it. But no, people, they might not be hitting the jackpot the way some of those books hit the jackpot when they really started getting steam, but there's enough money to be made in that
Yeah.
genre that they're still buying and publishing because they know even if they won't make a lot, they're going to make money. They're going to make money. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was thinking for any authors who are listening who think, oh, maybe I'll get into this. Um, if you want to move fast, self-publishing is definitely the faster way to go than traditional publishing. And this is the kind of genre that you could self-publish quite effectively, I think. The
Yes.
key, though, if you can write fast, you can write well, you can get the books out. The key is marketing. You need to now sort of rise above the crowd and to be noticed. Now, it could be that there's just so many people reading it, you're going to have a buoyancy effect just from that. But if you really want to punch out and be known, the challenge will be marketing because there is a lot out there. So, speed, quality of writing, great stuff. Just think about the marketing.
Yeah, it'll be all about keywords and finding that, if you are doing, fairies falling in love with mermaids, like be very specific about your keyword search because if you use the wrong ones and you get readers who are looking for that,
Yeah.
but your book's not really about it, they're going to be mad
Yep.
and they're
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to leave good reviews and they're going to be annoyed that they wasted time and it wasn't that. So, and if you don't use any really specific ones, you might not find that niche and then your sales will, plummet,
Yeah.
from that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. It is marketing. But it's
Yeah.
a it's a fascinating thing. I think it's a bit of an anomaly in publishing to see something like this have such staying power as a genre.
Yeah, so it's an exciting time. So yeah, any listeners out there have any interest in Romantasy, like, hey, give it a shot. We think we'd like to see it. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
All right. Well, I think we'll call it there. I think that's our show for today.
romantasy.
So everyone, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats, and feel free to leave a review because it really does help us a lot. You can catch up with Sarah at sarahdaman.com and on Instagram.
And you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com as well as on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you again for joining us today. Please reach out if there's any topics or genres you'd like us to cover, and we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.